Hello, I'm Jill Callister, the Chief Executive Officer of Mind Australia. I didn't have the opportunity to meet or work with Anthony Stratford, but I soon learned from my colleagues at Mind the central role that he played in making peer-led, recovery-oriented practice part of the DNA of what we do at Mind as an organisation. As you will hear from Anthony's friends and colleagues, he was also a major influence in mental health and recovery more broadly. Anthony was a pioneer who laid the groundwork for so much of the reform being undertaken today to create a more humane and person-centred model of mental health support. Our thanks to Anthony's friends and colleagues for sharing their memories and reflecting on the legacy of this absolute trailblazer of lived experience leadership.
My name's Jerry Norton, and I had the pleasure of knowing Anthony Stratford in my role as Chief Executive of Mind Australia for 9 years. Anthony worked for Mind Australia for 12 years. He started as a direct support worker in a FAMS program in South Melbourne and evolved over 12 years to a senior position in the organisation, providing advice to the Mind board, to the executive team and to the organisation. Anthony was certainly a great guy to work with and really pioneered Mind Australia's approach to lived experience. We forget now how in the 2008, when Anthony started, how little lived experience there was. Anthony worked within Mind at the national level and the international level, bringing the best of world experience back to Mind. He has made a great contribution to Mind and will be sorely missed.
Hello, my name is Arandhati Jayakody. Anthony was a very dear friend and a mentor and a colleague. I had the privilege of working closely with him for more than 7 years. Anthony was someone that really held the hope for me and also helped me find meaning and purpose in life. I met Anthony at a point in life where things were really difficult and dark for me. And he was the person that told me that living with a mental health condition didn't have to mean that you have to live a small life, that the horizons were still open to you. And in peer work, this is what we called holding the hope, and he was so good at it. And I know I'm not the only one that he held the hope for. He held the hope for a lot of us. And he also encouraged a whole generation of us to use of experience to help others and improve services. He guided us in not shying away from our experiences, but embrace our experiences and how we can use that to improve things. For those of us that had the privilege of knowing him and was, the way he touched our lives, he'll live on in our hearts. But more than that, he inspired a whole generation of us to do this work and continue to guide and encourage us right till the end. And his legacy and influence will be felt by the generations to come.
I'm Sarah Pollock and I'm the Chief Mental Health Advocate for Western Australia. And prior to that, I worked at Mind for 10 years and I worked very closely with Anthony during the time that I was at Mind. Anthony's capacity for garnering social connections and creating social relationships and networks, and how he used this to really extend the word about lived experience. Anthony was generous and gracious and charming. He was one of the most socially connected people that I've worked with. He made connections with people all over the world. He made connections with people wherever he went, and he worked really hard to build and maintain those connections. The other thing is he shared those connections with others. So I think at the heart of these connections was Anthony's desire to spread a message about the importance of lived experience in transforming mental health systems, and really the importance of the lived experience way of knowing and voices in challenging the dominant biomedical models. I think this is one of the things that it's one of his great achievements. I think only Anthony could have done what he did in the way that he did it. And he did it beautifully and I'd say even irresistibly.
So my name is Larry Davidson. I'm a clinical psychologist by training. I'm also a person in long-term recovery from a serious mental illness. I'm a professor of psychology at Yale University School of Medicine. And I knew Anthony for probably about 15 years. I met him when I first visited Australia, and he then came over to the US several times, and I saw him again in Australia several times, and we became quite close friends, actually. Anthony was a consummate ambassador. You don't meet that many people in the mental health field who can give credibility to and weigh opposing points of view. But Anthony seemed to understand everybody else's position and was really a consummate ambassador in helping to bring people together. He was always looking for the win-win situations in a context that has long been quite contentious. I remember him mostly for his warmth and his love of people and his extraordinary ability to bring out the best in people. He was a bridge builder, bringing people together for a common cause, and that common cause was to engage persons who were struggling and suffering into compassionate care so that they could benefit from what psychiatry had to offer.
Hi, my name is Louise Byrne. I'm a Senior Research Fellow at RMIT and a lived experience executive advisor at Mind. Anthony and I shared a passion for exploring new ideas, what's possible, and pushing boundaries. Anthony was one of the first people who really understood how important it was to get scientific evidence around our workforce to help explain it and define it and to build our credibility, not only for other people, but also for us to understand better what it is that we're doing and be able to articulate that. And I really believe and know that the work that he did created pathways that wouldn't exist otherwise, that people like myself are benefiting from, and that the whole workforce will benefit from ultimately. His warmth and his generosity in mentoring and creating opportunities is so inspiring, and I really hold that in my heart.
My name is Robin Callaghan. I first met Anthony Stratford when he was appointed to me as a peer support worker by Mind Australia. Anthony was a terrific support worker. He encouraged me to think bigger and to look at new horizons and use my expertise and knowledge in the mental health field. And I finally, he encouraged me to apply for a job at Mind Australia, where I worked in learning and development and recovery-oriented practice. I feel deep sadness and profound gratitude for having known Anthony. Many people who know Anthony will understand the deep sadness and profound loss of a highly regarded leader and mentor in the lived experience movement, and the deep gratitude we all feel and share for knowing him. Anthony touched many people's lives in the same way that he touched mine. He touched me very deeply. He was a deeply spiritual man and humanistic in his desire to relieve people and beings of suffering. Anthony walked the walk, talked the talk, and all the while promoting hope and recovery-oriented practice in mental health. He was being a fearless advocate for system change and reform. I will miss him greatly, as will so many other people. Wale, Anthony.
Hi, my name is Lisa Brophy. I'm Professor and Discipline Lead in Social Work and Social Policy at La Trobe University. And before that, I worked at the University of Melbourne in a role that was in partnership with Mind Australia. And it was in that role in particular that I had a lot to do with our dear friend, Anthony Stratford. He was very passionate about recovery and recovery-oriented practice. And he was very passionate about the role of peer support workers. And he mentored so many people and provided so much leadership, not just in Australia, but also internationally. So that was incredibly impressive that Anthony was able to do that. And he had a knack for getting people together around these issues that he was so passionate about. And you got drawn up into it. It was often a lovely experience to be there with Anthony, feeling that great sense of justice and the need for change and the possibility that we could be involved in contributing to that to improve the lives of people with mental ill health, which was always, of course, Anthony's first passion, really.
Hi, I'm Faye Jackson. I'm the General Manager of Inclusion at Flourish Australia. It's a designated lived experience role. And I met Anthony when I was a Deputy Commissioner with the New South Wales Mental Health Commission, which was also a designated role. And Anthony was then, and I think that's probably the biggest strength that he had. He was the consummate networker, and he knew how to cast out his nets and to gather people together, knowing that this person could work well with that person, could work well on this work that they're doing, so that they could all work together and improve the human rights of people with lived experience and the services in mental health. He built relationships in the most gentle kind of way, and he was soft and kind always. And for those of us with lived experience, we need a safe space to feel that we can connect and really bond with a person. And Anthony certainly made that. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for everything you did, brother. Bye.
Hi, my name is Terry Laidler. Currently, I chair the board of the Victorian Collaborative Centre for Mental Health and Wellbeing, and I've been involved around the mental health reform space for a fair while now. Not seeing much reform, as Anthony would have reminded me from time to time, but he was remarkably successful in getting the idea on the ground in mental health services in Victoria that peer support and peer design of mental health services was going to make a significant difference to the experience that people who themselves were having mental health problems were going to have within the service system. And I think it's testimony to how committed he was to that and how good he was at that, that so many people I run into now consider him to have been one of their mentors. He has changed the shape of mental health services, not single-handedly, but with his own commitment and enthusiasm, knowledge, and also determination, quite significantly over the last 20 or so years.
I'm Katie Larson. I'm the Senior Manager of Inclusion and Participation at Mind. I worked with Anthony for about 2 years before his retirement from his role at Mind. Anthony was a trailblazer in the work of lived experience. The work that he did nationally and internationally had a profound influence on the way we think about lived experience leadership across all the work we do. Also to work with, he was just an incredible person to have in our office and to be around. He loved nothing more than going for a walk and talking through all the issues and answering any questions. And he always had time to talk about the work he had done and to share his wisdom with those who he worked with. I guess what he's left with me personally is his incredible legacy at Mind. Is very close to my heart and is really part of the work that I do and that I do with my team. It has so much influence on the way we think and the responsibility we hold to get this work right. And that will stay with us here at Mind for the foreseeable future. It really has been an incredible and extraordinarily powerful contribution that he's made. He truly is one of the giants, and he will be deeply missed and loved for a long time by many.